and welcome to the Glacially Musical podcast and YouTube review. It is beer, metal, swearing, and some vinyl. I, of course, am Nick Cameron of the Glacially Musical, and I am joined by a man whose journalistic empire in the worlds of heavy metal continues expanding and protecting the world, Coral Reefy Chakas. How we doing today, buddy?
Goodness gracious, what a buildup. I'm never going to be able to live up to that shit. I mean, disappointing the listeners for the next hour plus.
Well, let's see how long we can go on about this one. I'm going to go ahead and beer check because I'm going to be quiet for a little bit because I don't have a vinyl check this week. We recorded on Saturday, and it's only been 4 days, so I haven't even had a chance to. I did go to a record store, and when I said you're always going to make your best choices when you got to use a credit card, if you're me, made my best choices that day. But my beer this week is Upslope Craft Lager. It is absolutely delicious. Been drinking so many of my favorite IPAs.
Every time I forget my glass. God damn it. I finally have drinking glasses.
So many delicious and over hoppy IPAs over the past couple of years that I am trying to force myself into not drinking them so much, especially when it's the day after an overtime blues playoff game.
We'll talk hockey in a second. That is gorgeous. What an amber.
Yes, it is delightful. It's an American style lager, but it's got a good malt flavor to it rather than nothing. And it is bright, fresh, and easy. 4.8% ABV. It is handcrafted, aluminum can, portable, recyclable, and good. That's what it says.
Nice.
And something for rivers. I don't have my glasses on. I can't read those little bitty letters.
I've been fucking up and not wearing my glasses enough lately. And just like, I wonder, I'm not sleeping too much. I'm screen timing too much. And then I realized, I'm like, where are my glasses? Why don't I have them on? I need them specifically for computer reading. Anyway.
I can't get mine to work right for a computer, but I'll shut up now. I said it was good.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You're good. Let's see. Again, don't have my glass for like the third time in a row since I bought some beer glasses to drink out of, but I have a really cool beer I have never had before. This is Altamont Brewworks Dank Row IPA. Yes, that is the Death Row logo portmanteau or, tribute to Death Row Records. And it's basically the guy in the electric chair. I don't know if folks can see this at home. He has a hop for a face.
There we go. Is that one of those hemp beers I've heard so much about that all the kids are drinking?
I don't know. It's a good brewery out here, and this is the IPA, which we're a fan of. There's, for some reason, there are pot leaves in the artwork also, and there's definitely a thing on here that says there's no THC or CBD. So please don't get confused and think this is some kind
probably is a hemp. There was a big thing in the beer world about 10 years ago when I was a beer writer, actually. And for using malted hemp, instead of malted barley. This is frankly, it didn't make that much of a difference.
Right. This is brewed and canned in Livermore, California, and again, it's the sticky, icky, crushable IPA with hop flavor and aroma. Hop flavor. That's kind of concerning. And
a little concerning, yeah,
a little concerning. Now I know that rappers have a lot of wine. Snoop Dogg has a wine. E40, who has got a food empire up here in the Bay Area in Oakland, has gelato and 40 ounces and Four Loko style energy drinks, ice creams. I think his ice cream is called like What's Good in the Hood, which is like absolutely the most perfect name ever for a delicious ice cream from the
I was thinking UB40.
No, UB40 is like the reggae English.
The red wine people.
Terrible.
I'm gonna make a red wine joke.
No, man.
Sorry.
Snoop has red wine, like wines that are sold in like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. But I don't know if rappers are really doing beer outside of a couple of 40-ounce people. So this was meant to be like a spoof on Death Row Records. Obviously, again, let's check it out. I didn't see the ABV on this at all. And again, I think they're so worried.
If it's crushable, it's probably about 5.5.
Yeah, they're so worried about here it is. 6.3 ABV, 1 pint. And again, I think they're just worried about, because they use the weed in the artwork similar to Death Row. I think they were worried that people might think it was a weed beer, but it is not a hemp or weed beer.
I apologize if I'm staring at all points in the room. I did not close the door. And now the cats are in here, and one of them is in the Forbidden Lands, aka the top of the vinyl shelves.
Son of a bitch. This is pretty damn good. I've been holding on to this for like a month or so before drinking it, but this is dang good, man. I'm glad I had this. I like this beer.
I've had many an Upslope lager. It's something I can get on at a bargain basement price.
You have mentioned them before on the show. I don't think you've had one on the show.
One of my many abilities to find things on the cheap.
Yo, sometimes you gotta find things on the cheap.
Correct. I've got no vinyl check. What do you got this week?
I do have a vinyl. This is a fun one. This was gifted to me, and this is a record from my childhood coming back into my possession as an adult, given to me by my special lady friend. This is the soundtrack to the Ramones' Rock and Roll High School.
Nice.
You can't see it anymore from this newish angle, but on this side of the room, when you see some of my other stuff that Ghost Cult does, I have a huge Ramones flag over my bed. I love the Ramones. I'm from New York City, and I don't really, as much as they are obviously punk icons, I really grew up with the Ramones as almost a classic rock band on the level of Black Sabbath or Zeppelin. Obviously not as heavy, but just as meaningful. And in terms of New York City bands outside of Beastie Boys and Anthrax, I can't think of a more important other band that's not like a New York hardcore punk band. But yeah, this album is great. You got your classic Ramones songs. There's a couple of covers. Rock and Roll High School, of course, Blitzkrieg Bop. There's like a medley they play during the movie. Blitzkrieg Bop, Lobotomy, California Sun, Pinhead, She's the One. There's a Nick Lowe song on here. If you don't know Nick Lowe, get acquainted. Jesus is a cool, great album. Brian Eno. Devo is on here. Eddie and the Hot Rods, Teenage Depression. Smoking in the Boys Room, the original by Brownsville Station, not the terrible cover. Chuck Berry.
It's not terrible. It's part of my childhood.
I'm sorry, it's terrible. Chuck Berry, School Days. The Dream Goes On Forever, Todd Rundgren, not a fan, sorry. Yeah. And of course, School's Out, Alice Cooper. This is one of the best movie soundtracks ever, in my opinion, for rock or punk or whatever. And
I would argue that it's not quite up there with Saturday Night Fever, but that is a pretty damn good soundtrack.
You again with that bullshit. Bringing that bullshit in here. This podcast is not allowed.
It's a callback, and I'm calling it back every week.
Stop it.
No.
I will hate it. I'm trying to remember what year this came out. I think it's 79. Ed Stasium is the technical supervisor and producer of the record. So anything was recorded, he did. And obviously he might have also been the person who culled the music, like, organized the music for the soundtrack, made the, this is what we should get. So he went on to produce a lot of big deal people in the 80s and 90s as well. So this is Rock and Roll High School. Very cool part of my collection now.
Nice. Since I am wearing a Metallica t-shirt, I'd like to do the Metallica Minute now. This is actually a really cool thing. James, as we record this over the weekend, had a very open and vulnerable moment on stage, being worried about not being as good of a player as he once was. And it's really cool that he is now in a place in his life where he can share that kind of thing with people. And granted, I have not heard James play live since S&M 2, but look, if that's playing bad, don't listen to me. You are still crushing it, sir.
I have seen Metallica 4 times in the last year, and it will be 5 in another week and a half from this recording. So by the time people will hear this, and we will probably do a chaser where I talk about it, I've seen him play, and he's been one of the best parts of the band. He's literally carrying them at this point in his performance. I didn't hear anything. I went back and listened to some of the YouTube videos from that show. I didn't hear him sound or play poorly. I think they're playing a little loose with the tracks, and like they're not so worried about being perfect. Lars never has. Okay, fine, but actually Lars has been one of the most consistent, best members of the band live, even going back to 2017 when I saw them on the Hardwired tour with Avenged Sevenfold. And yeah, Lars has actually been terrific. I think part of that has to do with the set list choices, and part of that is they're not playing that much. So he gives his 2 hours plus a night, but he's really not. They're not doing 5 days a week anymore.
They do basically weekend shows,
and they're not playing that challenging a set list for him. It's a lot of mid-tempo stuff, like the newer stuff. And when
I saw them on Hardware, they played a goodly half of the Black Album. And then
they were doing the 25th anniversary of the Black Album back then.
Not when I saw them, but because they hadn't started that yet, but they were celebrating quite a bit of it. And there's nothing really fast on that record besides, Through the Never gets close to fast, but it wasn't.
That's
holier than thou.
Other than thou, but even that is it's not fast. But James was a borderline. He cried a little bit. It was a borderline breakdown for him. And we have talked about this. I had said after our massive Metallica series, maybe as an idea, I meant to go back and recap all the series with one post on ghostcultmag.com. I probably should do that to help people find all the episodes in case they want to binge the episodes. I would appreciate that. You would appreciate that.
Oh my God, especially if you rated and reviewed them.
Please like and subscribe. I see a kitty.
That is Gigi.
There's a black cat.
Goose is on the records. Yes.
I ain't superstitious when a black cat crosses my path. Anyway, meow.
God, that's something I need to get.
James. I had said like a couple of months ago on this very show, I feel like we could get 10 more years out of Metallica, including a record or two. I wonder if there's a silent toll we're not seeing, especially in the wake of the suicide of Trevor Sternad, of Black Dahlia murder, in the 5-year anniversary of Chris Cornell's passing, which is today as we record this on May 18th, or technically sometime May 17th, May 18th, he passed. And this is Mental Health Awareness Month. So it is not okay to, it is okay to not be okay, but it's also, it's still a stigma. On one hand, let's go crazy, and rock and roll is crazy, and rock and roll is full of crazies, and Ozzy's a madman and crazy. And on the other hand, there's a very dark side to all of this. James Hetfield has tap danced on the razor blade of depression, anxiety, drugs and alcohol, and all kinds of other problems for decades.
And one of the things I like to point out when this kind of topic comes up is, when I was younger, when I was growing up, the only thing in this world I wanted was a job where I traveled frequently. And my wife had that for 2 years. She traveled every other week. She kept telling me when I would tell her this, Nick, that sucks. Nick, that sucks. Trust me, you don't want this. Well, I ended up getting a job where I would go on trips. I would go on about 6 or 7 trips a year for work. Nothing significant, nothing long, never even back-to-back weeks. And I was absolutely miserable on every one of those trips. Now, imagine walking out your door, kissing your wife and kids goodbye, and say, I will see you in 6 months. And then come back, see them for a weekend, and then get back on the road.
Right.
That was Metallica's life for 30 years.
Yeah, and let's all, they're playing basically, what did you say, 50 or less shows a year now?
Yeah, James Hetfield said, he was the first one to say it back in like 2012 or so. He's like, look, guys, I can't go. It's like, I can't go like we used to. It's 50 shows.
And they don't have to. They made their money. I get that there's probably business people telling them, you're leaving all this money on the table, you should do more stuff. But I think like it's sacrificing their lives. These guys are all pushing 60. They've had 40 years as a band. They have had 30 years as the biggest band on the planet, bar none. There are no bands equivalent to this band except Guns N' Roses and Foo Fighters right now, and maybe pop stars. That's it. There's no one else in our genre doing heavy rock or metal of any kind.
I don't know that I would even say Guns N' Roses is remotely near this, but that's a debate.
They kind of are, because they have, maybe even Guns N' Roses is actually trying to do this at the level they used to, because they will play, when they tour, they will do multiple shows a week, whereas Metallica will do a few shows a week with a gap in between. And Lars, not for nothing, I was desperately trying to go to see Arch Enemy and Behemoth. I think I mentioned this on our last episode. I did not get to go. Lars got off the plane from South America, got with his wife, and they went to go see that show in Berkeley, Arch Enemy and Behemoth and Napalm Death and others. And there's all kinds of photos of them hanging out backstage. Not like I missed an opportunity to hang out with Lars Ulrich and Nergal and Rob Flynn and any other Bay Area metal people who were there. I wasn't, and I wasn't going to be. I would have just been in the audience, bought a shirt and left. But it is. I'm sure James went home, and he's a dad, and even though he has some grown kids, he still has some teens and younger children, and I worry about him. This is I am
keep in mind
concerned.
the way he grew up as well. There is going to be a lot of latent PTSD there, and I mean, not trying to be armchair psychologist, but just remember that these are human beings. That's
this podcast is definitely going to prevent me from interviewing Metallica.
Okay,
anyway,
let's move forward. Now I'm going to give you.
It isn't.
I'm sorry.
I'll just let me just summarize on a positive note. Considering everything, it is a very refreshing and good thing that he was able to talk about this on stage in front of I don't know how many thousands of people in the good folks of Brazil. His band came out and hugged him. There's a YouTube video the Ghost Hole has where I analyzed it for a second. Again, not trying to be an armchair quarterback of any kind. I am no medical professional. It is refreshing that such a tough macho dude in his life was able to, at 58, whatever years old, come out on stage and be like, I'm concerned that I'm not good anymore. And I'm really sorry. And I'm having a moment up here. It's a little deep. I'm sure some metal fans are like, I'm not here for that. As I drink my beer and do this podcast. But, I'm grateful. I would like 10 more years of Metallica to see them get to 50. It's not a given. They might have to walk away, and I'd be okay. I'd rather have that guy be alive and walk away than be another story like we had to write about Chris Cornell today.
I still think we get one more record and one more tour. And then I think Metallica's done. Do they do a farewell tour? No. They just tour and they say we're done. That's it. Yeah, they do a tour and everybody kind of, and then it's going to be like Rush's farewell tour where they didn't say it, but everybody knew it. I don't know. I think Rush played like 200 shows back then. I don't know. That's Rush. But now I'm going to give you the Vinnie Vincent Creatures Fest minute because I love this shit show of a thing. The latest news. I got to give you some older news. So, the Rockologist is a minor record label that gets old-timey records and re-releases them, primarily Kiss-related things. The first album was the Eric Carr solo record, which was basically a pile of unfinished demos, and I mean unfinished demos. I bought it on CD, of course, and because Eric sang most of it, but it was so unfinished he only played drums on like 2 tracks. The rest of it were synthesizers. But he was credited as programming. Anyway, so they did that. They've done Peter Criss albums. They've done Peter Criss's stuff like that. So their latest release is Peter Criss's 2 solo records post-Kiss, directly post-Kiss. Out of Control and Let Me Rock You, 2 of possibly the worst albums ever committed to the wax circle here, in my humble opinion. Just truly awful. Well, he went there, completely legitimate. Everything is fine. He went to Universal, got the licensing, and did it. After securing all the licensing and getting all that, he then went to the Peter Criss camp to see if they wanted to make some money signing them. And Peter Criss said, no, I'm good. And then at which point, the CEO or owner, however you want to look at it, of the Rockologist record label starts bad-mouthing Peter. And then talking about how much he paid Ace Frehley per autograph for one of Ace Frehley's releases that they had done. I mean, really talking out of school here. Okay. Then the Rockologist discovers that their table and booth has been refunded at Creatures Fest and they're not welcome. Which point he then goes on a large Kiss podcast featuring 3 people and 3 sides of things. And that's all I'm going to say. Complaining again about Peter Criss and how Peter Criss is out to get him and this and that. Well, this week, the Creatures Fest directors put out a statement saying they did not exclude the Rockologist based on anything any artist said. They read the room and made their own choice. Also, I'm going to point out that the promoter from Creatures Fest is the guy we have all seen in the Gene Simmons videos in the producer experience and the at-home experience for the Gene Simmons vault. This is a guy with crazy amounts of money who just loves Kiss. So that's why it's amateur hour, because it literally is an amateur. So that is the Creatures Fest Minute. We are now, as I say this, we are 13 days away from it happening, theoretically.
That means we're going to get at least 2 more podcast mentions of this thing, maybe 3.
Probably 4.
Did you see the image this week of Gene rehearsing for
in the bathrobe?
In his bathrobe, and I was like, I want to take a bath all night and wear my robe all day.
And the same sound check, if you watch the video, Paul Stanley jokes about lip syncing.
They know what's up. Like, you know, let's not pretend. I love Paul. I love Gene. If I never see them again, I will never see them again. I'm fine with that. I don't want to see him again for money. If I get to go for free, I'll gladly go.
No, I wouldn't do that, because I don't want to. I wouldn't want to have to be honest about how I feel about what's up on that stage. So being positive, let's move forward to the Hockey Blues loss. But before we get to that,
can we talk about the Game 7 Rangers win?
Yeah, I was going to say, before we get to that, congratulations on the Rangers coming back from 3-1, which is a feat that's happening more and more frequently. So pretty soon it's not going to be all that cool. But
how do you think that is? Bad defense, not enough good goalies?
I think the world is different, and that it's happened enough where people don't view it as an insurmountable obstacle. Because if one guy jumped that, if the Blues in 1991 could do it, anybody can do it. That was not a good team. Their goalie had a 3.75 goals against average. Let's call a thing what it is.
Who was their goalie?
Vincent Riendo.
Okay.
That was his last year.
Does not ring a bell.
It shouldn't. He was a right-handed catching goalie, which tells you all you need to know, because there's only about 3 to 4 of them in the league at any given time.
That's true.
And there's only 2 or 3 of them in the Hall of Fame, period.
No shit.
One of them is Tony Esposito.
Yo. So Tony the Tiger.
Blues had a game where it ended up going to overtime against Colorado, and the Blues did not deserve to go to overtime. Jordan Bennington was a wall, stopping like 70 shots in 4 periods, and we lost 3-2. So Colorado threw their best game at the St. Louis Blues, and it took them to overtime to do it. So, and on top of that, Colorado has also collapsed in Game 3 in the past 4 seasons. So, yeah, long series. Now, do we have anything else to jibber jabber about? Or are we going to get into this?
Just like, can we come up with some stories to avoid talking about this?
Okay, there we go. Let's get into this. We, to catch you up, have been doing the mighty Merciful Fate with the tapped out King Diamond a little bit. The 1990s is what I chose. I don't really. Oh, I know why, because that's when I got on the train. So I chose that decade for the King. But this is the most prolific decade of King Diamond's career, and quite possibly one of the most prolific decades in terms of recording and touring in the modern era. I do not count the 60s and 70s, where dudes were popping out 25-minute albums. Big Brother and the Holding Company, Looking at You, debut record, 19 minutes. And Jefferson Airplane, Looking at You, Surrealistic Pillow, 29 minutes. And Johnny Cash putting out records anywhere from 19 to 28 minutes every other weekend, where he didn't write most of it. So we are discussing all 10 records, and these are not little bitty bits. These are 45-minute minimum attempted magnum opuses.
Except for the one throwaway compilation album that's garbage.
It was still 50 minutes, though.
Yeah, but that's not good.
It wasn't all garbage.
It was padded. It was padded.
Yes, it was padded. So we started off with The Eye, which was the last album of the original King Diamond run, in my opinion. because after that, things get intertwined, followed by Return to the Vampire. Then we followed that up with a couple of Merciful Fate records.
You were going to say Interview with the Vampire, which would be much better than Return of the Vampire.
Also came out around the same time.
Louis.
A couple of years. Hey. Christina Ricci in that movie was amazing. Not Christina Ricci. Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten or Kirsten? Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten. She's more exotic.
I like discount Jack Nicholson there. What's his face?
Christian Slater.
Christian Slater, discount Jack Nicholson, Walmart Jack Nicholson there. Whenever he gets killed in a movie, it's a thrill for me.
You're lucky they didn't do Armand. That's all I'm going to say.
I know.
So then we moved on to the next two Merciful Fate records, which were In the Shadows. Amazing. Time. Waste of It. Followed up with...
Were you saving that all week? That was a good one.
No, actually that was off the cuff.
That's great.
And then we moved into King Diamond Spider's Lullaby, followed by Merciful Fate's Into the Unknown, which was a banger, the first legitimate banger all the way through of the decade. Now we are switching back because apparently King Diamond really didn't know which way was up and which way was down. So 2 weeks after the amazing Into the Unknown, the King drops a bomb with the great, like literally 2 weeks. 2 weeks. There's in fact no In the Graveyard tour. There is an Into the Unknown tour that starts 2 weeks after this.
I'm already
he drops. He drops.
I'm already
The Graveyard. Pick it up, Keefy.
This was a challenging listen. Not so much the Graveyard album. Obviously, the Voodoo is next, and it's not good. But the Graveyard.
Hey, stick with the Graveyard.
It's a pretty good record. It is. We were saying last time how the tic-tac-toe of Merciful Fate and King Diamond overlapping, disappearing members is happening.
Not on this record.
This is the last record to feature Darren on drums.
Correct.
And which again, he made these, that must have been a quick decision. Your records are your drums are tracked. Get out. Don't come back for the next one.
Well, they didn't tour anyway, so he was probably, I guess they had toured for Lullaby, but no, they didn't even tour for Lullaby. So they never toured. This guy never toured King Diamond.
Yes. Yeah. The Graveyard is a concept record.
Interesting story.
The theme of these next few records is purple, which is my favorite color. Very also reminiscent of some Black Sabbath artwork and stuff. The Graveyard is a concept record. We talked about the hot and cold concept records for King Diamond, as Nick is fond of saying. Every record is a concept record if you try hard enough. This is truly a concept record from start to finish.
This is a concept record, and you don't even have to try.
You don't have to try. The storytelling is excellent. The music is excellent. Andy's fingerprints are all over this record, as they should be. Andy LaRocque and King co-wrote this entire album. And I'm
also going to say that this is probably the first record in this series that does not have any cringy lyrics.
No cringy lyrics. It's a challenge for King to have no cringy lyrics, because when he's not trying hard, you can tell. See also later this show. And
see also 20 to 30 minutes from right now.
Yes. Holy shit. Oh my God. And
no spoilers.
No spoilers. His singing is really good.
There are a couple iffy deliveries, but just a couple.
I think I don't want us to reach, and you tell me if I'm reaching. We talked extensively in the last episode about how the Spider's Lullaby, no matter what Nick says, is only half a concept record. You can interpret it as a whole concept record if you want, and you're off your meds and you had too much to drink or drug. It's really only half a record. It's a half-baked idea. Just a year and a half later, this fully fledged story comes out, and they spent 3 months in the studio making this record, and it totally shows. And it totally shows up the last couple of records we've looked at and listened to. So
when they didn't do that.
They did not.
Can I also
They
say
changed
this is
labels. I
yeah,
think
Massacre Records?
Massacre is more of a distributor than a label, and I still
Okay.
think ultimately Metal Blade owns the rights worldwide, but they might have licensed them to Massacre
I
because
know they own them now at least.
they own them now, but they were doing a lot of that in the 90s where Metal Blade, they were offered to jump to a major. This would be worth a whole episode, and I don't want to diverge too much, but I will say Metal Blade was offered to jump to a major and almost jump to a major fully, but instead they cleverly did distro deals to let the majors sell their records, which made them infinitely smarter and more money and less less pliable to the major label game, we'll call it, without sidetracking too much. But yeah, this is a really great story and ultimately a very good and satisfying album. Just to
Agreed.
set the table for starters. Luckily, because we've been suffering and we're going to suffer some more for our art in a little bit.
Did I say, and I'm not sure if I did, but did I say this is probably his most coherent storyline? This is probably the most well written storyline. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. It's a good story, and it works out really well for the time, because this is the first story that really doesn't have significant amounts of the occult. It has a superstitious, lobotomized weirdo who believes in things, and the only real occult stuff is in the last song, Lucy Forever. Everything else is true crime, and at this time, action news was a thing. Helicopters chasing down high-speed chases.
OJ.
And yeah, this is a couple years out from OJ, just a couple years. And I mean, it's so weird to think about how OJ was now almost 30 years ago, because I remember that I just don't remember a time. Well, I guess I don't remember a time without it, but I remember when I do remember. I mean, I remember when news was just news, and it was before the media had really leaned into if it bleeds, it leads.
The two things that ended the death of actual local news and the dawn of 24-hour news. The OJ chase itself, which interrupted game 6 of the NBA Finals. I know because I was watching the Knicks ultimately lose to the Houston Rockets, never to win a ring in my whole lifetime so far, Knicks. Jesus Christ. And the Lacey Peterson trial. Lacey and Scott Peterson. Lacey Peterson murdered by her husband. He didn't seem to give a shit that he was under suspicion, was completely guilty, obviously guilty to everyone in the world. And that launched the careers of like every CNN talking head.
I would also say the Menendez brothers trial.
Brothers a little bit later, but yeah.
No, Menendez were earlier.
Were they? Well,
Scott Peterson was in the early aughts. I can tell you because his brother called into my work when I did mail order for inmates, not long after he was convicted. So it's like, I'm Scott Peterson's brother. I'm like, yes. And I'm like, yes, I spoke to the Night Stalker's wife. What do you want?
That's a super weird lead in for somebody. Okay.
Anyway, so moving forward, I'm going to open up another beer because this is getting weird. Let's just move on to the record.
All right. You lead, I follow. I have much more to say about this one than the next one, I promise. The next one's not going to be fun.
Starts off with the Graveyard, which King Diamond loves these little 90-second ditties, little table setters. We'll call them the cold open from the Twilight Zone. So this is, where am I? I gotta get out of this place. I mean, that's like the whole song. I gotta get out of this place. I wonder if he does. Just have to wait to the next song to find out. I probably, because it'd be a short record if it didn't be a single. It'd be a concept single.
A concept single. I mean, there have been. So there have to have been.
Every track off the first side of Spider's Lullaby was a concept single.
Brutal.
Yes.
Next.
Black Hill Sanitarium, which is where we get to meet the main character whose name escapes me because I don't care. I don't think he ever actually said his name, but excuse me, I'm still getting over this little ookie. But basically, the storyline really comes to the fore here. the narrator, who is an unreliable narrator telling the story from the first person view, setting the setting here, he was arrested for abusing the mayor's daughter. Spoiler alert, turns out actually the mayor had done it, but he was not believed. So this is him coming up with an escape plan from, he was not sent to prison, he was sent to a mental hospital, which really, if you think about it, doesn't really make sense. That's not how that would go, regardless of, I mean, not an American jurisprudence. So this is him coming out with this escape, giant riffs, great solos. King Diamond really nailing the character on this one and really feeling, like really living in the space.
Yeah, well said. This track is called Black Hill Sanitarium, by the way.
Did I not say that?
No. Yeah, I can't really muss with too much you said. Great riffs, excellent singing, great storytelling, really setting the table after the, for whatever reason, opening track that doesn't do anything.
It's the cold open. He has one in every concept
record. Scary intro. Just make it part of the song, guy. And like you said last week. And yeah, this is a real, let's consider this the opening track for real. And this is a really great opening track.
It should, I don't know that we have really talked up Andy LaRock quite enough. And even though I am more of a Merciful Fate fan than a King Diamond fan, the Sherman Denner unholy union is a great riffing union.
Double pun right there, unholy union. 6 degrees of Q liquoration.
I'm sorry, I really didn't think this through before. It's unscripted. It's off the cuff. It's off the cuff. So, but Andy LaRock,
this podcast could have been a social media post.
It could have been, but it's not. Listen, watch, like, subscribe. Thank you. Andy LaRock is such an effortless riffer. I mean, think of Family Ghost. Think of Blood to Walk. Just these. There's a song in my head. I think it's Off Spider's Lullaby. But I mean, he can just come out with these classic, iconic riffs. And I don't use that word very often, but he creates the metal riffery, just like with Merciful Fate. Again, it's not a strange tone. It is just a standard tone, not following trends, not following the waters of popularity, just playing the riffs that he knows. And that's why he sounds timeless personally.
Well done.
We have not pumped his tires enough.
We probably haven't. Also, though, Merciful Fate has probably dominated the quality of this series so far.
Well, I mean, I was really good.
Yeah, that's true. But
yeah, I know. Okay, moving on.
Yep.
Waiting. That is, I don't remember that one.
You know what I'll say about this album also is there's a lot of, you could probably say this about every King Diamond record, but it's very pronounced here. There's a real classic heavy metal sound on this album, heavy metal style. So
no, I would say it's most pronounced on this record.
Yes.
There's nothing.
So not just the songwriting, but the style. Like, let's make a Black Sabbath riff. Let's make Iron Maiden twin leads. I'm not saying they said these things, but they could have the way it came out. And Waiting is one of those. It's got a massive riff, dude. Massive riff. It's actually, the riff carries the whole track more than anything else, which is unusual in a King Diamond song when he is so dominating.
Yes, I can completely understand that. If memory serves, this one is, oh God, I don't even remember what it was in the story. This is really frustrating. I have completely blanked on this track.
Well, I'm much more up, like, as the Graveyard, much more refreshed me. And I was like, oh, yes, I like this record quite a bit. And then I was, again, you'll find out soon enough.
Yeah. We'll get there.
I can't hold back.
Then we move on to Heads on the Wall. This is where we get the idea of something occult, the only occultishness in this whole thing. The idea is if you kill someone, if you die in a graveyard, you live there forever. And King Diamond decides to kill 3 people in the graveyard that night, including the gravedigger, including a prostitute. She's just working hard. She's just a working girl, dude. Just leave her alone. And then some other dude. He then takes their heads and puts them on the wall and calls them dolls. Okay. I don't know that we needed to go that extra step, but
Yeah, Heads on the Walls. It's a lengthier track. It's a little more. I don't want to say progressive, but it's a little more developed. A lot of motifs and parts to this song. Again, things that aid the storytelling. I wonder when King gets involved in the process in a song and says, "I need like a 2 minute segment here that just stops the riffs, and I just do a King Diamond thing." I wonder if he ever has
oh
that
yeah, the
conversation with Andy.
have to see. Yeah, he goes nuts on this one. We get a lot of the Into the Unknown version of his falsetto, the title track, where
Mm,
it's not the shrill, it's the more, I don't want to say blunted, but
yeah, that's fair. It's not quite the upper register. It's in the
yeah,
middle.
he's in fourth, not fifth gear.
Hmm, good enough. It was good for this.
Very good. No, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's different because when I wish he might have used that a little bit more next record or at all. Next we have Whispers, which is another little interlude track, which just moves the story along. You've got to get his daughter, where the voices in King Diamond's head, or perhaps the voices of the heads on King Diamond's wall, are explaining to him that he now must go kidnap a child. Okay, we are dealing with some dark craziness here.
Mm.
As King Diamond put it in the liner notes, if you obviously this is a work of fiction, and if you think that you should do this, you are simply too stupid to be alive. That is in
Well
the
done, King.
notes. I'm like, dude, I don't know that you were necessarily, espousing, but what else? Then we move on to I'm Not a Stranger. Now, this is a great song. It is very much in the vein of the aforementioned The Family Ghost when it comes to the riffs. That I can't sing. I'm sorry, but this is the song where he goes up and meets with Lucy, and then talks her into being kidnapped. Very nice, very genteel child kidnapping.
Terrible.
So
I'm
sorry.
No, not the song, the story.
I know.
The actuality. I'm Not a Stranger in the next track to me are the two actually my favorite tracks on here, beside the first proper track. And yeah, I'm Not a Stranger. It's like the correct length. Like he's already done the expositional storytelling. And so now I want you to get into the meat and bones of the story, no pun intended, and please don't keep expanding
The
too
meat and
much.
bones. The not wow. Okay.
But
I'm sorry,
yeah,
I'm stuck on that particular metaphor.
yeah, of course, as you would be with this topic. And Nick is fond of saying that a lot of records have a soft white underbelly that's not good. Soft white underbelly was originally the original name of Blue Oyster Cult, by the way. And but yeah, like I'm Not a Stranger is really good, and you kind of wish that more of the songs in his whole catalog were like this, to the point.
This
Tight,
album
great
doesn't
riff.
have the soft underbelly of bad songs.
Really doesn't. This is a very strong album all the way through, but I like these middle. Whispers is not really a full track, right?
No, that could have been part of this track, and
It
nobody
should
would
have
have noticed.
been not a separate track.
It
And
just makes shuffle stupid.
Yeah, and also just like I like to paraphrase The Irishman from Martin Scorsese. Not this Whispers, the other Whispers. You know that one. So, but yeah, man, I wish more songs were like this one across all the King's work.
Moving on to Digging Graves. Now we're getting into the weirdness because we have gone into the full-on plot. No pun intended. As King Diamond is digging up three grave plots.
Yeah.
He got that grave plot right off the highway. Little Lonely Island. You like that?
Yeah.
I watched the Mark McGuire Jose.
Yes, the Bash Brothers.
Oh my God, that is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
It's anyway. I have to say, and I apparently Canseco particularly hated it. I have to say that Andy Samberg as Jose Canseco is one of the greatest things in self-casting in history. End of
story. Call me Jose, and I'm Mark.
And I'm Mark.
Sorry,
and
Well, I watched a lot of things while I was sick that probably are a lot better than sick me than real. Anyway, so this song is about King Diamond putting his plan into motion, which involves burying Lucy alive, but mercifully, in order not to kill her. Okay.
Yeah, none really. Again, I like this.
These things out loud.
I like, yeah, when you hear them out loud, it's sure like saying something. Again, I do like these middle tracks quite a bunch. This is a little longer than I would like, but still overall, there's a little padding on this one, but overall, this is a very good song.
Well, I don't know that every King Diamond song in the history of his art requires 4 to 5 guitar solos.
No.
And I love these guitar solos, but they're not always, you don't always have to just keep going. It doesn't have to be, the standard, song construction is intro, verse, chorus, solo, bridge, chorus, verse, outro. It doesn't have to be verse, solo, chorus, verse, solo, chorus, verse, solo, 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 chorus, solo, which is what a lot of King Diamond songs end up being. Room 19, looking at you in your 9 minutes. It's still the widest room, though. That's what I hear. Oh, come on, go Tab, go. And then we move on to Sleep Tight Little Baby. Now, this is a wonderful, humanizing, tender ballad where the I'm not sure if we're pro or antagonist again. Don't know of the story. The protagonist, lovely tender song about how he's very sorry, but he's got to put her in a coffin and then bury her. But don't cry. That's in the song. Don't cry. Okay.
Yeah, this is the album. It's still good from here on out, but starts to get a little wavery with the storytelling. Well, it's very on the nose, and I'm not against these songs. Are good, mostly good. The rest of the album, the rest of the way is mostly strong. But I would say if there's one criticism I have of any is don't always be so on the nose direct.
He has never been this on the nose before.
He's usually more subtle. And he's
storytelling
no
by
chill
a song,
at all on this one.
None. He's like, I have an idea. And, as the Robot Devil put it, we said it last week, I'm going to say it this week, I'll probably say it next week. You can't have your characters sing what their feelings are. That makes me angry. You have to be subtle. There's no subtlety, no chill, no nothing. And the opposite of the following album, the songs are longer at the end when they should have been longer at the beginning.
Yeah, that's also a good point.
Whereas in the other song, he did it backwards. They're longer at the beginning and shorter at the end.
On purpose. It is definitely not related, but it could
everything
just be a coincidence. Could just be a coincidence. All right.
Look, we're gonna kick that. We're gonna kick that record to the junk. Let's just wait till we get there to do it.
Yes, we are. Daddy, I believe, is next.
Oh, which one is that?
Well, so there's kind of a sweet toward the end of the album to me. Sleep Tight Little Baby, Daddy, Trick or Treat, Up from the Grave. I feel like these are all meant, clearly it's a concept record.
Kind of one song, really.
Yeah, it's a concept record, but these could just as well be one track, one long track.
I mean, they could have just thrown 2112 on the back of this and had one 20-minute song and nobody would have said a word.
Yeah, Daddy, it's all right.
I don't know. Then there's Trick or Treat, where we got into the... we skipped Meet Me at Midnight.
Oh, did we? Sorry,
Meet Me at Midnight. That's the song where he goes and screams at his rival to come to the graveyard at midnight. Sorry, we missed that. Very important information. Moving back on to Midnight. Trick or Treat, which is where he details the plan to Mackenzie. I have to say, King Diamond has a wonderful talent to pick just the absolute stupidest names for his characters.
chances are, if you've been a metal fan this last couple of decades, on Halloween, someone has posted the trick or treat just because it is served up to you by Spotify and other streaming algorithms that Nick does not, Nick Knack here doesn't use. But like, I guarantee you, one of your friends has used YouTube and they've been like Halloween metal songs, trick or treat.
Why wouldn't you just do Halloween?
You could do Halloween by
because I mean, every day
number
for
of
me
artists.
is Halloween.
Every day is Halloween ministry. And
King Diamond. Anyway,
Bell Book and Candle.
What?
Look it up.
I'm not. So up, we trick or treat details the plan. More riffery, more solos. It's tense. It's evil. Again, the mayor's name is Mackenzie. He doesn't have a first name. It's just Mackenzie. Maybe his name is Mac Kenzie. I don't know.
I always thought like Mayor Mackenzie was like Father Mackenzie from Eleanor Rigby.
I feel like Mayor Mackenzie is like Mayor McCheese.
Well, I mean, it is King Diamond. It's definitely Mayor McCheese. But,
yes, okay, so Mayor McCheese is fighting the Grimace. That's what I'm.
Yo, the Grimace is evil. Remember, the original Grimace is an evil.
What color is the Grimace?
Purple.
What color is his record?
Purple.
All right, so Mayor McCheese is fighting the Grimace. King Diamond was probably high watching, old commercials from McDonald's. It could happen. So now he explains that there are 7 graves. He's dug up 7 graves in a day, which, I got to tell you, we're watching Lord of the Rings last week.
It's a lot of work.
This week. And, watching, Aragorn, or as my kid calls him, the dude that dies all the time, or she later started calling him Atari 2600. I might have had a bit of an influence on this.
Stop. That is too funny.
So anyway, I'm like, how much cardio you have to do to be in one of these battles? These dudes are fighting for like 4 days.
Yeah. I mean, like cardio. Aragon, you're talking about his ancestors dying over and over,
No, he
like his many false deaths in the thing.
Yeah.
Many, sort of King Jon Snow was based on him probably. I also Sean Bean, who dies in every freaking movie. Like, you can't.
Basically, he is Kenny.
He is the Kenny of every movie.
He is Kenny, except that they acknowledge that he didn't die. That's the only difference. They just acknowledge it. So imagine the cardio and the strength it would take to dig 7 graves in a day.
You'd be tired.
Dude, there's no such thing as a grave digger anymore. It's called a backhoe.
Yeah.
And it's just like shroomp.
It's a 5-minute process.
So he's gonna fight Mayor McCheese on the same day he dug 7 graves.
Yeah, not gonna be much of a fight, let me tell you.
But the Grimace is smart enough to make Mayor McCheese dig up 3. So that's the thing. You got to dig up 3 and you got to find it, but you only have an hour. I don't know that King Diamond did a whole lot of research about digging a grave, because there is no way you could dig 3 graves in an hour.
It's like the Zapruder film, there's no way to shoot a bolt action shotgun 3 times in 10 seconds. It's humanly impossible.
If you had Arnold Schwarzenegger on his roidiest roid day with an assist from Jose Canseco during the 40-40 season, you still couldn't get that done. That's just a lot. It's a lot of dirt.
It is a lot of dirt.
It's like 3 by 8, 6 feet down. 3, 8, 6. I mean, that's like 156 cubic feet of dirt. You
are better at math than I am.
I don't know if that's the right number, though.
I don't even know how you're doing that with all the beer you've had.
Let me see. Actually, let me get the real number. 96, 48, 144, 144 cubic feet.
It burns my brain, the math.
Everything burns when it's King Diamond. So, in the story, he digs up the first grave. No. Digs up the second grave. No. Digs up the third grave. Whoop, 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 whoop. The goal light goes. He found the kid and everything's fine. And then somehow King Diamond's head comes off.
Wouldn't be King Diamond without the head coming off somebody.
And then Lucy takes the head and puts King Diamond's head in her bag.
Yeah, because why not?
And then he gets to live with Lucy forever because the occult thing turns out to be true. Lucy Forever. And he's happy.
Yeah.
At the end, he's singing, I get to be with Lucy forever.
A long ass record, 61 minutes.
It is long. He did a lot of triple-sided in this time.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on this record? Because we pretty much just wrapped it up.
Yeah, we wrapped it up. It's
overall, it's like a B, right? It's a pretty good record.
Yeah, I'd give this, I
There's
would
some
give
weak
this a
moments,
good
but
7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, at least a 7.5 or an 8 to me if you're doing that kind of scale. I do.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, this ends up being one of the better records of this decade of all the records he's put out, which is many.
Yes, and
probably top 5, top 4.
Yeah, I'm just gonna point out that in 4 or 5 years when he starts touring again, the 90s don't exist on that set list.
No, not at all.
So yeah, I got another more to say on the Graveyard. Phenomenal record.
Yeah, good job. I'm a little short of phenomenal. I think very good.
Okay.
Very
wonderful, good. Really good listen.
Yeah, I mean, if you think it's phenomenal, you can.
I think it's phenomenal. I think this is one of his best. Now, if you don't mind, I'm just going to move the.
Do you want to take a break?
No, I'm good. Let's just move the needle.
Just plow through this thing because this next one's gonna.
So here's my contemporary story about this album.
Graveyard?
This comes out in 1998.
Oh, Voodoo.
We're on Voodoo. King Diamond, Voodoo.
Another purple record.
Great
artwork.
Well, you put the I guess.
Christian Wallen, probably the best thing you can say about this record is the artwork.
Well, it's got some really good names. The Loa House and Lafayette and Salem.
Yeah.
The Voodoo dude is named Salem. There's a lot to unpack there. But so I didn't have a whole lot of money when this came out. I was working 2 jobs, working 80 hours a week. Most weeks, having my day off was only working 9 hours on Sundays. That was as close as I got to a day off. So I asked my buddy Donnie, who was a big Kiss fan. He always referred to me as his Kiss buddy. I convinced him to buy Voodoo for me for my birthday. He's like, I'll get your Voodoo, Nick. Fine, let's go to Vintage Vinyl. Come on, let's go. So we went and I bought it. I did not keep it. So I was already not wanting to do this album, but I can't see. Keefy won't allow skipping.
Oh, blame me. Sure.
What happened on Thin Lizzy?
We skipped quite a bunch. Anyway.
But no, we did not skip anything. Once we were in the block.
That was it. We're in the kill zone. Jesus.
Once we were on the field.
May have to rethink this strategy.
It's your strategy, not mine. So because of that, we had to do Voodoo. So, Voodoo. Yeah, you want to go?
Yeah, I guess so. On paper, this sounds like a good idea. First of all, did he go on tour after the Graveyard? Because there is a gap.
No, there's no Graveyard tour.
He just goes to
the Graveyard came out 2 weeks after Into the Unknown.
So he's probably tired.
Into the Unknown tour.
Probably took off the rest of the year.
Yeah, there was nothing in 97. 97 was.
So he just took some time off. Maybe needed to take some time off.
It comes back to the Voodoo, which the Voodoo had a tour.
Yeah, the Voodoo. But so he comes back with this concept record that on paper sounds amazing.
Oh yeah.
Especially in King Diamond's hands.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately,
this could have been as good as
best record.
This had conceptually speaking, it had the potential to have a storyline as cool as Abigail. However,
it did not.
No.
Nay.
The storyline is actually, if you de-King Dimeified it and didn't have the Lafayettes and didn't have Simone Bonetti and Salem. I don't know how there was a dude named Salem in New Orleans, but
he's mixing up his things. But let's face it, America has a very dark past with persecution and persecution complexes.
Dark past, yeah, we stopped.
Present. We beat it.
Yay! Tell everybody who's not a white male that
Puritanism and all these things. So on the concept, he some of the let's say points he would have had to hit to make this work do come in and work. Baton Rouge, And
it wasn't Nolens?
No, I think it's Baton Rouge.
But they were on the Mississippi.
On the Mississippi, which I don't think is near Baton Rouge. I could be wrong.
I don't have a,
Dr. LaCroix, which today sounds like
it's LaCroix. It's LaCroix.
But LaCroix is the bubbly drink, and that's what
it's spelled the same way.
I know it is. Salem, it doesn't make sense. It's a colonial name, and it probably means it's an allusion to Salem, Massachusetts, and the witchcraft trials, which actually didn't take place in what is Salem today. It took place in Peabody or Old Salem, but okay, fine.
He also referred to the house as a colonial house,
which it could not have been. It would have been a provincial house, but okay, or a plantation house. Right, a Victorian house. Those are plantation houses, basically.
The pictures of a Victorian mansion.
Right. Yes. And again, the cover is gorgeous. The river runs it's beautifully constructed.
That is the Mississippi. The mansion is on the fictional mansion, the Loa House, which is LOA, capital L,
not an abbreviation for Life of Agony.
Capital A. I never understood that. It's like, okay, I don't know what you're going for there.
I think there's a reason why. On paper,
tell me.
On paper, the story makes sense.
Oh yeah.
I think there's a root called Loa that is used in witchcraft, by the way. Then we get into the album itself. The story of the whole album is actually pretty good all the way through for the most part.
This is another 62-minute record.
There's 14 songs here. This thing should have been 7 or 8, and just not.
Well, only... again, they have another. There's a suite. There's a suite that's like 10 minutes long, followed by a very Peter Jackson-esque Lord of the Rings ending.
A million endings. Just 2.
There's 3 endings to this. There's 3 endings to a concept record story.
And Cross of Baron Samedi is definitely like a East Indian. Samedi is an East Indian thing for sure. So I don't know where he got this from. He's just pulling shit. Mostly it's held together, but it's actually all over the place. Then I'm going to say musically and lyrically and even vocally, this album does not work on many levels compared to Graveyard, which was a little inconsistent, but pretty great overall.
If I'm being honest about Graveyard, it does not stack up to anything in the 80s. No. I just love it more because it was the first one that came out new for me.
Yeah, okay. That's not unfair. I'll give you that.
It gives it a bump. But is it Abigail? No, I'm not the biggest fan of Abigail, but it's not Abigail. It's definitely not them. It's not Conspiracy. It's not The Eye. We have The Graveyard, which is fun. It's a fun little romp about, kidnapping children.
This album is a whole step down or more.
It's not one step down?
Several steps down.
No, this album, if I can just cut to the chase, is an abject failure from start to finish.
I don't want to even do all the tracks on here. I don't think I can. My heart can't take it. Let's call out the few good ones and leave it be.
All right, I will call out the few good ones.
But I'll let you.
You're up, Keefy.
I'll let you do what you want to do.
No, I called out my good ones. You're up.
Lower House, good track, decent vocal, LaRock and King. Life After Death, good track, nice riffs. Voodoo, terrible. Title track,
awful.
Title track of this thing. This is abysmal. I love
it is garbage.
Congos in there, like what he thought was going to be like tribal African drumming. And after that intro, terrible song, terrible chorus, terrible vocals, terrible lyrics, terrible. Sorry.
There's a recurring theme.
Anyone who likes that shit, check your shit out. Desperately.
Call a therapist.
Yeah. A Secret is not bad, but it's also not great.
Let me jump in real quick.
And then you just take over, because after this it's crashes downhill.
There is a running theme about the voodoo drums. I don't know if voodoo drums are a thing, but in King Diamond's mind they are. And it's a very serious thing that happens nightly. And you have Dr. LaCroix in Salem, the butler who comes with the house. That's not a red flag. Buy a house. Oh, here's the butler, Salem. Oh, cool. That would not be my response. My response is there
A cat
paperwork?
named Salem would be a good idea, and I will someday have a cat named Salem.
Is a butler named Salem that comes with the house? Do I have to pay him? Is there a contract? You're just like, oh, cool. No,
Get
you
out.
are entitled. That is
Get
white
out
privilege.
now.
That is white privilege.
True white privilege. This album is a whole white privilege album, actually.
Oh yeah, completely. Basically, the white people are like, oh, there's voodoo. Let's just kill him.
Yeah, that's rough.
Let's just kill them.
That's
Genocide out their religion. Call it a day. But I mean, really, the voodoo people should also not be practicing voodoo drums on someone else's property. At least pay some rent for this.
I mean, there's freedom for religion in this country at this time.
Yeah, but there's not freedom for your religion to be practiced in my house if I don't approve of it. You can't just come into my house and put up a ritual and just go to town.
You could. I would.
That would be illegal. That is trespassing. That is not. So the graveyard, or I'm sorry, I wish it was the graveyard still. The voodoo. The voodoo is, what's that song? The voodoo, the hoodoo that you do so well. He did not do it well. I mean, this album is worse than Time.
This is just so bad on a lot of levels. I'd say the only late album track that I halfway enjoy is Sending of the Dead, and the vocals are awful. And when I say awful, listen, King Diamond is one of the best singers in the world. So here's where we talked about the last record. Last record, King made really great use of his middle range and falsetto. This album, more than half of the songs of 14 songs are sung in this like shrill, high thing that don't complement the songs at all. I know he was going for this emotion, and maybe he's trying to induce panic, the panic of the voodoo spell, or the panic of the sufferer of the voodoo curses, but like it's just jarringly poor, a poor execution.
It's like David Pumpkin says, okay, King Diamond put out 10 records in 10 years. That's like 100. So that's, imagine 10 songs per record. That's 100 floors of fright. They ain't all going to be winners.
No.
And this one is just frighteningly, it's just bad. The only way it can get worse is if you do what I did, which is bring up the lyrics.
Oh no, don't, because they're so poor.
Read along to the lyrics as you listen.
These are his weakest lyrics maybe ever. And that's really saying something.
I would say Leave My Soul Alone is just
still the worst.
It's a notch above this.
Oh, really. No, I was going to say it's still the worst. It's just not good. It's just not good. I don't know why he had time to work on this. It seemed like he had time to work on this. They took a long break. He should have been refreshed. They stopped making one after another. So even if you throw out the Leftovers album and say that they made like, at this point, 7 straight albums in a row, and the Leftovers record they half kind of did.
Well, this is the 8th. I mean, this is the 8th record of the decade.
This is the 8th, and they had a break before it, and it's still not good. That's bad. And it makes me feel bad because I love King Diamond and I love Merciful Fate. This is no good.
Well, if you allow me to peek in the next week just a touch.
Yeah, before that, answer my question. Why does Chris Estes have songwriting credits on this record?
Oh, we didn't mention there's a new drummer.
Yeah, but whatever.
It's another drummer, who cares? And it's the last 2 albums with Luke Hebert
Herb and Chris.
No, Chris is the bass player.
John Luke Hebert, no relation to Bobby Hebert of the New Orleans Saints. Hebert. That means a different thing in San Francisco when you say Hebert.
Well, they had to get a French guy involved in voodoo to
maybe. Herb and Chris leave after this, but Chris somehow has writing credits on this one. It's the first ones of his career.
Oh, would you like to know why this is terrible?
Why is it?
This was released in February of '98. Okay. During October to November of '87, he was recording the next Merciful Fate record.
97.
Right. So 3 months before Voodoo was released, he was in the studio with Fate.
Yeah. Jesus.
So there's no break.
Yeah, there's no break, and he's kind of maybe even checked out. Dimebag Daryl plays lead guitar on the Voodoo song, which is a shame because the song is fucking garbage.
Did you even notice?
Not a doesn't even sound like him. I think he was trying to sound like Andy. He might have even played through Andy's rig. I mean, he doesn't sound like garbage. He's Dimebag, but
I
like,
know. No, I'm just saying that. Well, I mean, the song is garbage.
not good, man. Not good.
It's a garbage record. There is
It's really
just
not a good record. I don't understand why. It should have been a great record.
coulda, woulda, shoulda.
I like that the hidden track is just another song played completely backwards. In like, dude, this shit is bad enough. Stop.
Yeah, it's Aftermath, the second ending.
Right. These last two songs are not even really songs. They're just kind of little codas, right? And frankly,
it's
so is Unclean Spirits is barely a separate song. It's
I mean,
really
you
a
have
coda of
three
The Exorcist.
songs about the exorcism. It's like watching an anime. If anybody here's watched Rurouni Kenshin, right? And he gets to the main story arc of Kenshin. Kenshin has to fight this dude who has all these burns, and because of these burns, he can only fight for 15 minutes at a time before he has to rest. That 15-minute fight was 3 episodes. Well, an episode is not 15 minutes, it is 24. So, I mean, they're really working the clock on that one. And that's
yeah. Arguably, this is the worst song of this whole series, the worst album of this series. With several songs that would be the worst song. Voodoo might be the worst title track of any King Diamond related album. And that's saying something. And this whole record is not good. Let's go to the Haywood Jablomi scale of Quiet Riot albums and say, where does Voodoo rank in the last 3 Quiet Riot albums we reviewed? Would it be better than those or worse? It could be worse.
It's not as good as Condition Critical.
Well, no, I wasn't counting that one. I mean the other ones.
Wait,
3, 4, and the other one.
There's no other one.
Isn't there like a self-titled record in there somewhere?
That's 4.
Oh God.
Self-titled is 4. It was so bad.
So is it worse because it should be better based on all the factors, or it's just terrible?
No, it's just bad. It's just bad. I mean, I knew it was bad when I heard it when it was new, and it did not age better. It did not. It's not a lovely cheese. It is not a delicious wine. It is a steaming pile of filth,
and not in a good way.
Not in a good way. No.
I rest my case, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
What's frustrating is they toured this one and not the previous 2,
including that really good one.
Right. So let me just go ahead and throw out the set list.
Oh God.
15 tracks. I will apologize for last week. I told a falsity. They did play songs off the Spider's Lullaby live.
Okay.
One song off the Spider's Lullaby. Guess what song?
I don't want to.
It's the Spider's Lullaby.
Oh, all right. That makes sense.
Okay, so on this tour, they played Welcome Home, The Invisible Guests, the aforementioned The Spider's Lullaby, Sleepless Nights, classic, Eye of the Witch, super classic, The Trial, The Candle, Up from the Grave. Oh, that is a graveyard tune. The Family Ghost, Voodoo, did not need that. One Down, Two to Go. Oh, God, did not need that. Sarah's Night, The Exorcist. Wow, they just had a little suite there, didn't they? Finishing it off with Abigail and Halloween.
That's a very strong ending.
The encore was strong, yes. So they played 4 tracks off Voodoo, 2 off them, 2 off Abigail, 2 off Fatal Portrait, 2 off The Eye, 1 off The Following Conspiracy, The Graveyard, and The Spider's Lullaby. I would also point out there is not a Merciful Fate tune in this set.
First time,
probably last time. The next tour is The Puppet Master. No, that is not true. I missed 2 records there. House of God, which I've never heard, and Abigail 2, The Revenge. We did not mention that Abigail was referenced in the opening track, saying the child lives. This is not Abigail. Wish it was Abigail. That would have been a better day. And so, I mean, I don't know how we pull this one back into anything that's not, I hate this.
Yeah, there's nothing. I got nothing.
I got nothing either.
It's a shame because again, all the elements were in place to make this an incredible album, and it just is not there.
Well, what's really frustrating for me is Andy is not tapped out.
No, I don't
But
think
he
he's
didn't.
the problem, but some
But
of
he
it
didn't
is.
turn anything in.
I don't know why it's not
Well,
better.
I didn't look at the songwriting credits real closely.
I did. They're mostly Andy and King with a little bit from Chris, which is questionable, and he's written the on the worst tracks of them all, of course, except
Of
Voodoo.
course.
So I don't know. I just a step down. I think maybe they were burned out. Maybe even the break didn't help. Maybe it was too much of a break. Maybe we don't know. The run up to making these two records concurrently could have drained them all and made both things worse. We'll have to see.
Well, I have not. The next Fate album is, as I mentioned, I believe, Dead Again.
Yeah.
Which is the first Fate record in 2 years at this point. So after 92, both Merciful Fate and King Diamond were going concerns.
Yeah, it could be too much.
An interesting concept. I can't think of another situation like this. You had the Black Sabbath tours but they weren't recording. You had the Black Sabbath of the aughts where it'd be like every other tour. They would, Ozzy would do a Sabbath tour, then go back solo, go to Sabbath. He was releasing albums, but he doesn't really write. I mean, I don't think I'm talking about a school there. But the idea of having two functioning non-heritage bands at once.
It's tough. Okay, this is a painful one. Graveyard by Voodoo, no. I think that's what we're saying. Graveyard's worth a buy, right? I think it's worth a buy.
I bought it. I mean, yeah. I would like to get it on vinyl. I would
Voodoo, give that shit away if you have it.
Yeah, if you're doing a head to head on this one is Graveyard by the Length of the Field. Yeah.
All right.
That's all I got this week. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, for listening, for staring at my stupid face and Keefy's handsome beard and wonderful hats. So hopefully you have enjoyed this, and we will come back next week to put the little fez cap with the tassels on this to just kind of put a nice little ending on the King Diamond Merciful Fate 80s. And as always, it is the Glacier Musical Podcast. It does not play in Peoria.
I have to shut it off because I'm recording.
You have to shut it off.
Damn it. No, I want to do that. I want to do